So hello everyone on YouTube, MainManSWE, streaming live, but you're watching this in the future when I've uploaded this to YouTube. I hope everyone is doing great as always, enjoying Tekken 7. We had some distressing news coming from Mr. CherryBerryMango. I'm sure you know who he is. He's one of the best players in the world, a Jin main, and one of the few, I think, who didn't jump on board the Leroy train. I think he actually stuck with Jin, so props to him. He had a pretty rough year last year. I remember on Twitter reading he had some trouble in his private life. I think it was family oriented. I was trying to get an interview with him and he said he couldn't because of those issues. And he seems like a really genuinely nice guy. So it really sucks to hear that he's been under so much stress. And of course, he came out a few days ago with a statement on his experience with his then sponsor. Well, I think they sponsored him through parts of 2019, so this is his ex-sponsor. But he had a really bad experience with them. And from what I've seen on Twitter, other sponsored players and content creators have been very vocal as well. So I thought we could take a look and read this. And this is relevant to me because Tekken is such a niche game. When you compare to the big games, you know, like, let's just say Fortnite, League of Legends, that list can go very long, you know, and deep before you get to Tekken. Like, Tekken is very niche compared to, you know, the big world, in the big world of gaming. And so sponsorship opportunities are not raining down on top Tekken players. And let's just say lucrative sponsorships are, you know, probably nowhere to be seen unless you're like super fucking lucky, I'm guessing. So to hear that someone in this world of Tekken where it's like, you know, it's so hard to get a sponsorship and a good one. And then you hear that even one of the top players lands a sponsorship and he gets ripped off. It just, I don't know, it's so disheartening, you know. In this little world of Tekken, very few opportunities. Oh, here's one. Oh, it's a knife. Oh, it was a knife. It was a knife to the chest. Oh, did we need this? So I am going to now quote CherryBerryMango, and I will read some of this, and I will try and add some form of commentary, my thoughts. Hello, I am CherryBerryMango. No, I'm actually main man. I'm now reading his statement. That's the funniest joke of this recording, by the way. So yeah, get ready, buckle up. I am afraid I have got some bad news I would like to share regarding the team that I was in for approximately 4.5 months. Okay, so the time frame is 4.5 months. Last year, after having a discussion with a friend of mine who was helping me with sponsorship issues, I had decided to go with a team that prioritized support for tournaments and offered a short contract period. The reason behind this is because the Tekken World Tour 2019 was ongoing and I had some family issues I had to care for. Fortunately, there was a team offering a short-term sponsorship, so I signed a contract with them. In the beginning, everything was running smoothly. At the time of the contract, I already had booked tickets for Rev Major 2019 in the Philippines. The team felt that paying the money back afterwards is more convenient. Therefore, the team and I had agreed that the team reimburses the expenses that I used to purchase the tickets for all tournaments, including Rev Major. I did receive the expense for this tournament, which was $450, so this helped me pay for future tournament expenses and gave me peace of mind to travel for tournaments without any doubt as to being reimbursed. During that time, I was collecting money mainly from streaming. However, due to various reasons, I was not able to concentrate enough on streaming, so this sponsorship was obviously a big relief for CBM. But the situation got worse as time passed. I required a quick reimbursement for the expenses, but the team delayed the payment, saying that they will pay back for all tournaments together. So yeah, if I was to receive that message from a sponsor, it would be like, this does not sound promising. That just sounds like they don't have a cash to pay right then and there, so they're trying to postpone it for as long as they can. This was understandable, seeing as I was attending multiple tournaments within a short period. However, even after the EVO Japan 2020, which was the final tournament that I was contracted to be sponsored for, I was still waiting for the money. So yes, also not a good sign, but after your contract has expired, you know, the time you are sort of on the team, you're sponsored, you still have not received any sort of reimbursement on money you've spent to go to tournaments like months prior. So again, that's not very good. I could not bear with this situation since there was no reimbursement even after the contract ended. Therefore, I told the team that I am not going to that I am going to publicize this incident if they do not pay the money back. So here he is threatening to go public. The team replied, mentioning that they are also not receiving money from their sponsors and currently pursuing... The sponsor has a sponsor, it seems. And currently, well, that's probably something you see quite often. And currently pursuing a lawsuit. They offered me two options: to wait until sponsors invest the money or to receive $500 each week for 2 weeks from the CEO's private money. Indeed, I chose the latter option. So he chose to receive $500 each week for 2 weeks. However, a few days later, they suddenly talked about splitting the prize money. And this is where it gets really, really shady. So again, however, a few days later, they suddenly talked about splitting the prize money. So these are CherryBerryMango's earnings from playing in tournaments. So again, they have not paid him or reimbursed him as the contract says, you know, for all of his expenses, you know, paying for tournaments, paying for, you know, flights all across the world. It's certainly expensive to do the Tekken World Tour, to go from location to location, hotel rooms, you know, it all adds up very quickly. And they have not paid him for any of this, outside for one tournament early in the year. And they suddenly start talking about not the money they owe him, which is a lot, but rather you gotta split those tournament earnings you've received, that prize pool money. So CBM goes on to say, I did not get into the top 4 of any Tekken World Tour 2019 tournaments, and I paid out of my own pocket for the OSL tournament that I won. So I told them no share of the prize money from this particular tournament was owed to them. Exactly, because he used his own funds. It was not under the contract. And nothing from Tekken World Tour 2019. I explained this to the team. Sometime later, they suddenly contacted me with their official Twitter account. It was about the replacement of the CEO. So suddenly you have an old CEO who was in contact with CBM, and now you have a new CEO. And it was about... Okay, and the new CEO says the old CEO caused a lot of problems for the team. This was very unexpected, but this was not a huge problem for me if I got the money back, so I asked the new CEO about the money that I was entitled to get paid. He said that he will pay the money, but he wanted me to tweet about the old CEO, as all of this was caused by him. So yeah, the new CEO says, we will give you the money, but you have to tweet a nasty tweet about the old CEO and shit on him so that everyone understands that he was the problem. Sounds extremely professional, right? Very trustworthy. I hadn't even met the old CEO before, so after having some discussion about this with people who support me, I replied to the new CEO that I am going to decide what to do after I get the reimbursement. During the course of this situation, the new CEO caused a huge problem on Twitter with his blunt language. Content creators of the team publicized this because the new CEO went too far, worsening the public opinion about the team. With these set of incidents, I still did not receive the $2,912 I am owed.
My streak.
It's like, yeah, it's, I mean, CBM probably doesn't even travel as much as some of the other guys, but he is $3,000 down into the hole in travel expenses, going to tournaments. $3,000. Like, a lot of people don't stop to think about this, but you look at the Tekken World Tour map, and there are events everywhere. And for the top players to get a one of the 20 spots or one of the 19 guaranteed seats in the Tekken World Tour finals, you have to play multiple events, and preferably big events, because they give master events, challenger events, they give way more points. But it will not be enough to just go and do well in one of them. You have to do well in many of them to get one of those 19 seats in the finals. And can you, if you're a slightly naive person, that doesn't sound too bad to you. But once you've traveled a bit, you understand. Well, I'm just hoping most people understand this, because some people who contact me are rather naive about it and wonder why I'm not traveling across the world constantly. And it's because just going to Vegas for me was $2,000. All in all, it cost a lot of money to do that. And when you're one of these guys who goes to, many Tekken World Tour events, it's like, it very quickly becomes a pretty unreasonable amount of money unless you're sponsored. And that's why your heart goes out to top Tekken players, because sponsorships are so few, and they most likely, most of the time, just do the bare minimum. Wear our t-shirt and we'll pay some of those trips, maybe all of them even, but we want a pretty good chunk of your earnings. Like, can you imagine what like a sponsorship looks like for a League of Legends player compared to a Tekken player? And of course, you understand why. It's business, and Tekken, is just a tiny fraction of that larger game, and the viewing figures for Tekken are so much less. But it just sucks that much more when you read about stuff like this. CherryBerryMango wants to compete in Tekken World Tour, is now $3,000 down the abyss, and he's, I guess, not going to get his money back because he was fucked over by a not very serious sponsor. But that you're probably willing to believe, because as a Tekken player, you're not arguing with a lot of power. If a sponsorship opportunity approaches a Tekken player, he's probably pretty willing to gamble on it, because there sure as hell is not a long queue of sponsors, queuing up to sign them. So it's okay. I was mentally damaged by this. Also, I had to speak to these people late at night due to time difference. With this and insane anger due to the situation, I was not able to sleep well. Well, I can understand that. Fortunately, I was able to recover my mentality, but the situation is not any better. I trusted them, given the fact that I have a written contract, but betrayal is the only thing I received. While talking to the old CEO, and with the help of people who support me, I was able to get help from a lawyer from the US, but this does not make me feel better. I will write further announcements if there is any change in the situation. I hope nobody else falls into these kind of situations. Tekken World Tour 2020 has been announced. It is very difficult to plan for the future without any sponsor and not being able to wrap things up. I will try hard to move forward, as I am aware of many people who always cheer for me, and I'm one of them. 2019 was a very hard year for me for many reasons, and 2020 has started off poorly with this situation. I really want to bounce back from this and be in a position where I can travel freely and enjoy Tekken with my friends around the world. I apologize if this has caused any inconvenience. Thank you very much for reading. I will try harder. Well, this was out of your control, sir. CBM, CherryBerryMango, and that concludes his statement. And yeah, your heart, my heart obviously goes out to him. Had a difficult 2019. Certainly hope 2020 is a better year for him. But as of now, he's not with a sponsor, as he wrote. Certainly hope he finds a more serious and dedicated sponsor. He deserves it. He's done really well lately as well. So didn't he beat Nia a while ago? Sorry, I don't remember. I just remember a big win for him in a set, in a tournament. But yeah, I'm just horrified to read this. But yes, can only stress again, as I've stressed multiple times during this little reading here and recording, that it is not easy being a Tekken player, or, you know, trying to compete in Tekken, you know, and God forbid one of these guys, you know, try and make it their full-time job. You know, like, Jesus, how hard that must be, being a pro Tekken player. But yeah, the prize pool has certainly grown in Tekken World Tour. I mean, it used to be, I mean, again, we can only look back at Rangchu winning Tekken World Tour 2018. How much did he win? $7,500 for winning the Tekken World Tour. And then you have taxes on top of that. Now, I don't know how it works in, he's from Korea. In Sweden, having read tax law, you have to pay on those types of earnings if you win a competition. If it's pure luck, you don't have to pay any taxes. But if you competed, you have to pay taxes. So I'm inclined to think he probably pays some taxes on that, on $7,500. And then the money, and then he has to pay a sponsor, obviously. No, wait. First he pays his sponsor a chunk. Then he pays taxes. And then he's like, oh, this is what I have left. And then he looks back on his bank account's history, paying for all of the trips, hotel. Well, no, wait. The sponsor hopefully did that. But I'm certain the sponsor doesn't cover all of it. I'm certain they don't cover restaurants, food, when you're traveling to a location. If they do, that's great. But I'm certain they don't cover everything. But it's like, it just used to be a joke. It's gotten better, but yeah, stuff like this certainly does not help. So yeah, sorry about that. I have to, I mean, I'm not part of that sponsor, but I still feel so sorry for him. Terrible. But yeah, again, I really hope he lands a better sponsor, and I certainly hope this is the last we read about shady douchebag sponsors in the Tekken world. I sure hope this is the last we read about stuff like this.